The Kent School District Board meetings are held in public on the second and fourth Wednesdays of the month at 7 p.m. at the Administration Center in accordance to the Washington State Open Public Meetings Act. Regular meetings include presentations and reports dealing with district operations, as well as time set aside for public comment. Now, here are your Kent School District Board of Directors. Welcome to tonight's board meeting.
All right, I'd like to reconvene our meeting and call it to order. We have a very special treat tonight. We have some of our dual language students from Carriage Crest who are going to say the Pledge of Allegiance in Spanish for us first, and then they're going to lead us in English. So will we all stand, please, and we'll enjoy the Spanish version.
Also from Scenic Hill.
Oh, Scenic Hill too, all right, not to be denied. Face the flag.
Yo prometo lealtad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y la república que representa una nación bajo Dios, entera, con libertad y justicia para todos. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. That was excellent. I'd like to welcome you to our meeting. This is a meeting of the board, which is held in public to comply with the Open Public Meetings Act. We allow opportunity for public comments later in the agenda. If you would like to address the board, fill out a blue card. It's actually a white card with blue trim. They're back on the table back there. And bring it back up to the dais here at any point in time. If you wish to speak to an agenda item, please indicate on the card, and your name will be called at that portion of the agenda. You will have 3 minutes. And just know that this is a portion of our meeting where we are listeners. You will speak to us, but we don't necessarily respond to you. Dr. Watts, are there any changes in the agenda?
President DeBruler, members of the board. Yes, there is one change. A supplemental personnel report was added to the consent agenda, and a printed copy is in front of you on the dais.
All right, thank you. We need a motion to add the supplemental personnel report to the consent agenda.
I so move.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion or question? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, thank you. Next part of our meeting is a reorganization of the Board of Directors and the election of officers, which is going to be put off until next week, but we have the recognition of board officers. So, Dr. Watts, will take it, please.
We'll take it, absolutely. And on our agenda item 2, we see recognition of our board of directors, and it brings me great honor and certainly a privilege to serve alongside our 5 school directors. And what I will say is we continue to work together as a board superintendent governance team. I think about the opportunity that you have provided me to lead and provide oversight for our district. The goal is that our team will support the work that will allow 27,000 students to achieve at increasingly higher levels. And the goal is now that our team will continue to ensure that we sponsor the work that allows those 27,000 students to achieve. So thank you for all that you've done, and thank you in advance for all that you will do in service as school board directors. And so I will have the honor to announce an appreciation and your name and role to President DeBruler, Board President. Thank you for your service. And
Thank you.
Let's give President Brewer a round of applause. And to Vice President Debbie Strauss, thank you for your service. To our board legislative representative, to Agda Burchard, thank you for your service. Our board director, Maya Venkatasalam, thank you for your service. Officer Appreciation, Director Russ Hanscom, thank you for your service. Good luck.
Thank you, Dr. Watts.
Thank you.
Moving on to 3.0, our recognition. This is the School Board Scholar Award. The Board of Directors of the Kent School District is recognizing a school board scholar from the graduating students. The scholarship is based on scholastic qualifications, financial need, as well as a written essay demonstrating how a college education will benefit this student and society. Also included is the consideration for school involvement and interviews. This year's recipient of a $2,000 scholarship from the Harry B. and Ruby T. Soames Educational Trust Foundation is Abdifata Abdi. You want to come up over here? Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Now, you graduated actually in January?
January, yeah.
All right, so what are you doing right now?
I go to South Seattle College.
South Seattle
yeah,
College.
doing an associate degree in science.
All right, very good. Well, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And let's take a picture. Don't sit. We need the picture.
Doesn't he get a check?
I don't know. Is there, you should.
Well, there you don't take your usual spots, I thought it'd be nice if you all could see our scholars on the back. You hold that, Tim. Extra piece of. And we're going to invite you to just stand there alone too, so we get one for you. Oh, you get a word too?
Oh,
Thank you.
thanks.
Maybe a little bit.
That was because of us being recognized for 1 year of service this past year.
Shot glass.
That's a big shot.
Our next item is a proclamation in support of the 100th anniversary of the Boeing Company. I will read the proclamation. It says, whereas the Boeing Company centennial occurs on July 15th, 2016, and whereas the Boeing Company, founded in Seattle, Washington by William Edward Boeing, grew from a small red barn on the shores of the Duwamish River to the largest aerospace and defense contractor in the world, the largest exporter in the United States, providing products to 150 countries, ranking 27th on the world's most admired companies list, and being named the #1 innovator among aerospace and defense companies for the 5th straight year. And whereas the Boeing Company contributes significantly to the health of the state of Washington, employing more than 79,000, half of its global workforce in the state, and purchasing $5.7 billion annually in materials, supplies, and services from 1,943 Washington state vendors. There's a lot of numbers in here. And whereas the Boeing Company, at its roots, Washington has become one of the largest aerospace industry clusters in the world, with more than 1,350 aerospace and related companies that directly and indirectly support more than 250,000 jobs and generate $85.7 billion in annual economic activity. And whereas the Boeing Company embraces a culture of caring and support for all Washingtonians by encouraging employees to volunteer and investing more than $53 million annually in the areas of education, health and human services, arts and culture, environment, and civic engagement. And whereas the Boeing Company on a national level employs more than 23,000 veterans, many still serving in the National Guard and Reserve, and partners with more than 50 airline customers completing over 170 humanitarian relief flights since 1992. Now therefore be it resolved that the Kent School District Board of Directors calls on its citizens to join in appreciation and recognition for the significant contributions the Boeing Company has made to the state of Washington over the past 100 years, and for the specific benefits realized by the Kent School District. And be it further resolved that the Kent School District enthusiastically thanks the Boeing Company for its ongoing and tremendous support. Signed this day of the 22nd of June. Do we have somebody here from Boeing to accept it? No. Okay. Well, thank you, Boeing. That's a lot of numbers, yeah. All right. We've got.
Did you mention?
Oh, there you go. A copy of the proclamation will be sent to the Puget Sound ESD to deliver to the appropriate individual at the Boeing Company. So we're taking it to them. They're not coming to us. Okay. Thank you. We're on to reports. We have the Safety Services monthly update. I'll give Tim and Commander Kasner a moment to get up there. Do we have any questions or comments?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
See if I can remember now. At Kent Meridian, I noticed there was an adult that was under the influence and then restrained. And I was curious if that was a student. It was on French Field. So I was curious if it was a student or if it was somebody on the campus that wasn't a student. And I was also asking, because I know there was another incident where there was a student or someone who was a student in another district that was reported as trespassing. And so I'm just wondering if there was a pattern of others coming onto the campus when they shouldn't be there.
Kent Meridian has an interesting dynamic with the proximity of a lot of having the pool on campus right there where we allow visitors during the day to go and use the pool. Walking through the campus, using the trail systems to some of the housing areas, things like that. It is common around KM to have that, which is why our officers try to be as visible as possible. And I believe in reference to the one you're saying, yes, a non-student with the French Field discussion. The other one I'm not 100% sure on right now, but it is common. It does happen on all of our campuses, but that location is just prone to that activity, yeah.
Okay. And is that something that the district is working with Kent Police also about?
Yes, which is why we put one of our school resource officers stationed there, and to be highly visible. You see the patrol vehicles parked out front just to be that presence, but we do work with law enforcement and making those contacts and proper signage, everything else we can do to try and reduce that impact.
Great, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Other comments or questions?
I had one quick question. So I know last year there was some additional summer training that was going on for our safety officers. Are we doing any of that again this year?
We do a 2-week academy prior to the start of school, and that is built in, and so that is everything from law enforcement-based training, scenario training, emergency drills, de-escalation techniques, report writing, some basics if we have new officers coming on. There's also a conference that we send officers to that is a state conference, and we have 7 officers represented there, and one is a speaker during the conference. So.
Great, thank you.
No?
So is there a cutoff of when the reporting's done? I saw a couple incidences from the 31st, but is it possible that one instance that happened at a middle school in May the paperwork hasn't been completed
So
yet?
sometimes they are pending, and yes, they're right towards the end. Some of the investigations are not complete, so we try and wrap those up the best we can, but some don't make the cutoff.
Okay.
So, but they are counted eventually in the totals.
Okay. A parent reached out to me, and it was at Mill Creek, and I didn't see it on here, so.
If our safety officers were not involved, but it's still a school situation, sometimes they do not make it to the report because it's just specific at the school. But it should if our safety officers are involved.
I don't think they were.
Okay.
So that's interesting. So teachers could break up a fight
Yes.
and it not be reported in this
Correct.
report?
It could be handled by administration or other staff. We might have an officer that's out for the day.
Yeah.
We do not have a substitute pool that handles that, but we try to put as much information as we can, so.
Okay. Because it was pretty serious. In a broken hand. So it still seems like somehow they should make it in here.
I can look into that specific one to see why it did not and get back with you on that.
Okay, that'd be great.
Sure.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah, I'll just add, I think it's come up before that if we can have a comprehensive report, that would be good, because even at top, I'm hearing that there are incidents where teachers are handling the situation, and this is not to you, but just to the district, if we can get it in a comprehensive report, that would be really good for us to see. Because there's a sense that teachers will say things like, well, the board's not hearing all that's happening in our schools. They're only hearing what the officers touch. So I think that's a valid point, and it'd be good to see that.
Okay.
Okay.
Something we can certainly look closer into. And when you mentioned comprehensive report, can you?
Including what's happening in our classroom when officers are not called,
Okay.
but teachers are handling the
Based on-
situation.
Okay, so a distinction, as I hear, safety and discipline as well.
Yes.
We'll continue to look and see how we can report more
Yes.
effectively so the information is clear and allows us to resolve matters more effectively. I agree.
I will add that I really appreciate seeing the emergency drills. As Patton said, planning's everything, planning's nothing. But this is really, really great to see that there's a commitment there, because it's kind of tough, at least in my experience in the private sector, to do these types of things. The enthusiasm is rarely there, but they're so important and so critical that I'm really glad to see that they're happening on a very, very regular basis. So
Thank you
keep
for
up that great
recognizing that.
work.
It's a big push that we try to do, and the schools have done very well
Yeah.
with that, so.
Okay.
Anything else? I have one thing. I've sort of been watching the drugs and alcohol column for the last couple months, and it's pretty much well shown here, that Kent Lake is having more than any of the other high schools, and I just thought that was kind of interesting. I think 4 of the things that happened this month 3 of them were in the woods off campus, or I don't know if it's off campus, but it's the woods.
We do see that as the weather gets warm, as we're starting to wind down. Students do tend to drift, so managing that attendance aspect and keeping them on track on the perimeters of the schools. So that's something we're trying to do. But you are correct.
Yeah.
So you are noticing that, so that's good. So
It was true. Okay. All right. Anything else? All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
thank you.
I can get this before Randy gets up here. The next part is School Discipline Data Monthly Report. Randy Heath is available. I got it before you got there.
Ready to go. I do want to address real quick that this is going to be our last discipline report for the year. We'll come back in September and give you a comprehensive look at the entire year once we've have totally clean data that we've reported to the state. We'll bring that back and let you know where we're at with that, and then we'll resume with our monthly ones in October of next school year. Also, to let you know that we've received some directives from OSPI around some changes that have been made to discipline policies. And so we will be starting to look at that over the summer and, be able to report back a little more about how we're responding to each of those in the fall. So yeah, we're starting that work already this summer.
Do we have questions or comments?
That was one of my questions about the periodic review. I did want to first, Director Heath, thank you for the student and parent handbook.
Yes.
I know it's separate from this issue, but it's not. It's related. And believe it or not, I actually went through it. And, it's really helpful to see what's in there. I had comments, but it's coming late, so I'll catch up with it. Okay. But I did want to talk about one thing I noticed that really stuck out for me was our discipline for elementary kids,
yes.
Particularly with drug and substance abuse. And I know this policy review or we have to periodically review the policies. Right. And I'm wondering if we're planning to get our discipline committee back, or how can we revisit that particular issue of elementary students?
Right, and actually, Dr. Watts and I were just talking about this last week around the need with the changes in the discipline policy and some of the things that we've been seeing to bring a more comprehensive group back together again next school year and take a look at some of the things and trends that we're starting to see. And yes, it's actually troubling to see some of the drug and alcohol use that is happening in our elementaries, albeit it's usually our sixth graders and occasionally our fifth graders, but which isn't a line if they were in a middle school. This is when kids start to experiment with drugs and alcohol, and that's why we do things like partner with the Kent Drug-Free Coalition to sponsor town hall meetings and try to educate parents about what signs they should be paying attention to and looking to and seeing what they can do if they see those signs. So we'll continue to work on that. But
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Sir?
I guess my only thing is, and I know we've changed how we do reporting, but I am still distraught, I guess is a good word, over our elementary school in-school suspensions and how much higher they are this year,
right.
Especially in some subgroups. And so I know we're making steps to do that, but it's a concern that we have that many, so.
Correct. And once again, it is somewhat in defining and making sure that, some of these things were already happening before, which was they were just being sent to the office and they weren't necessarily being coded in the way that they're now being coded. So, but I agree with you. We would love to see the kids more in the classroom and not out of the classroom. So that is.
Anything else? All right, thank you, Randy. Moving on to 5.0, 5.01, presentation, alternative learning experience program. Dr. Decker, you're on deck.
You wanted to say
I wanted to say that, yes.
President DeBruler, members of the board, Dr. Watts, Ms. Everett. It's my pleasure to have Ms. Lori Paxton with me tonight, coordinator of Career and Technical Education, to do our presentation. That looks just as weird on my screen.
Yes, there we go.
Okay. Oh. Okay. Okay, we had to make some revisions to this PowerPoint, and so it is in a PDF. So I apologize. I'll just start spinning as quickly as I can here. So this presentation meets the requirement of both our board policy and OSPI to report annually to the school board regarding our alternative learning experience programs that we have in the Kent School District. And there's actually been no changes in our process for reporting ALE between the 14-15 school year and the 15-16 school year. That is actually, I think, a great response that there were no changes in that process. And so the teachers for each of the ALE programs prepare the student learning plans, which you're going to see a sample of in just a few minutes, and meet weekly with each of their students on their Washington State Learning Plan. We have ALE programs at 4 of our school sites currently. Even though career and technical education students can be from our comprehensive high schools as well. So this is a sample of a student learning plan from Kent Phoenix Academy. And at Kent Phoenix Academy, when a student wants to, we only do student learning plans for students that are in our virtual high school for Kent Phoenix Academy. And most of our students that take these courses at Kent Phoenix Academy are also shared students with one of our comprehensive high schools. So the student may spend 3 periods a day at a Kent Lake or a Kent Meridian High School, and then use the alternative learning experience to go on site to KPA 2 hours a week, and then do the rest of their work outside the day. The great part about this alternative for kids is it allows students that have work experiences outside the day or family commitments to still maintain a full schedule and stay on track to graduate. It also gives them still that same access to the great resources that we have on KPA's campus as far as mental health support, school counselors, and that access. So just changing campuses and offering this opportunity does not limit the students' offerings for the high school.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
So at Kent Phoenix Academy, then the students that are going through the online program there, then would they fill out one of those learning plans too?
Yes, any student that is enrolled in the virtual high school.
Okay.
And are the classes the same? If you're taking a Algebra 2 class at Kent Mountain View, it's the same class that you take at KPA?
We use actually a slightly different software at both the school sites because of the way we design the program. And so at KPA, they use the program Advanced Academics, which provides a highly qualified teacher, highly effective teacher on the other side. And so that is NCAA approved, and KPA does not have to meet all the highly qualified status. At KMVA, we provide the highly qualified teacher on the campsite. And so, on the school site, and so it's not a campsite. But if, it is a little bit more limited class size or class offerings for courses.
Okay, thank you.
At KMVA, the students actually attend school 2.5 hours each day to do their ALE programming. And so they meet one-on-one with a school counselor or their academic learning advisor and coordinator to ensure that they maintain their on-track status to make progress on their course offerings. Students in this program at KMVA are typically enrolled in the transitions program on KMVA's campus. We also have students at the Regional Justice Center who are also on student learning plans. This is not an online course. This is all paper pencil. And I will turn this over to Ms. Lori Paxton to talk a little bit about how career and technical education also offers ALE programming.
Hey, President Bruler, members of the board, Dr. Watts, Ms. Everett. This is not really meant to be put on a slide. As you can see, it's not easily seen, but it's a sample of one of our written student learning plans for our CTE online students, and it's very similar to the other plans. The state requires 8 different components be in there, so obviously this is just a snapshot of part of one. The complete plan is many pages long. I'm actually going to scroll all the way down because that's probably really what is most important, is the overall number. And as you can see, we have approximately 300 students currently. Go back up. This is our June report, so this is the most recent report of our CTE online ALE classes. So we serve about 300 students in 3 of the different high schools. Probably, I think if I scroll all the way down, this is going to make more sense. As you'll notice in our CTE column over there, the head count and the FTE are significantly different, and that's one of the things that is unique about our program, is that we're a CTE program, and I really don't like to use the word program because we're not a program. You don't just take CTE online courses, you take a CTE online course, or maybe multiple throughout your high school career. So most students only take one at a time. So that's what the disparity is in our CTE column versus the other programs where they are indeed, like Phoenix Academy, Virtual Academy, for instance, often students will take their entire class load online. So that's the difference there. And the other difference between our program, like I said, is it's usually one class, and we do not require an in-person face-to-face contact, although that is an option, and we strongly encourage it, but we do understand that students are usually taking our CTE classes as either a makeup credit, an acceleration credit, or just because they have too many classes they want to take and they can't fit it into their regular day. So we understand that having another time where they have to check in and physically be somewhere is not always the best option for them. So the ALE reporting rules say that we have to have a once-a-week direct personal contact, but that can be either face-to-face, via email, via phone, via something Skype-like, a chat, pretty much any type of back-and-forth contact counts for that. So that's something else unique about our program. And if I want to go back, because I did skip over this slide, but this is just another comprehensive slide which shows all of our ALE reporting in the district. Not CTE is in here, but it's not CTE specific, and it shows the different grade levels. And I think that comes to the questions slide.
So I think the great thing you heard about our ALE experiences in the Kent School District is it can meet the needs of all kinds of students. For the student that needs acceleration, for the student that needs remediation, credit recapture, or students that just need a completely different program to meet their needs to continue on their educational journey. And I think that's one of the amazing things that this program offers.
I had a question. I was curious what some of the CTE classes are that are online.
I have a whole list. We have several business classes, such as business English, business math, economics. A brand new one that we're excited about that we just started second semester this year is our financial literacy class. We did a little pilot with that, and we're hoping that takes off. Yeah. We're excited about that one. We have some programming-specific classes. We have software development and Windows operating system fundamentals. We also have, family health, that's what I'm forgetting, family health and life on your own, so a few family consumer science classes as well.
And how are those advertised to our students?
Through trial and error over the past few years, we really realize that it is a teacher encouragement, inviting / counselor recommendation. I mean, obviously, if it's students that need to recover a credit, those are pretty easy to, here's a list of students that need to. But other students we're really trying to target are like the ones I said that want to accelerate or who are in a program like, for instance, at Kent Meridian, our IB program, where they often can't fit in a health class. So family health is the perfect fit for them.
Great, thank you. And I was pleased to hear about the financial literacy because tonight, when I was speaking with some of our retirees, I was saying that I've heard so many times from students and parents that they feel like that's something that's lacking in our curriculum is financial literacy. So thanks for providing that.
Yeah, thank you.
Other questions, comments?
Ogden asked.
Yeah, Ogden asked one of mine too. Do you have any?
Good work, Ogden.
I just wanted to understand, the students, I know it's advertised, the CTE program, but to the families, are we explaining the difference? Because I'm still trying to, it's difficult for me to understand when a student would go to KPA versus iGrad versus KMBA versus now CTE. How do we explain those options to our families? Or do we?
This is done mostly, I think, like Ms. Paxton mentioned, at the individual student level. CTE, I think, is a little bit different than our other comprehensive, our ALE programs at the other school sites, because at KPA, the virtual high school is all about that virtual experience. And so those students automatically need to have an ALE that is part of, and a student learning plan. That is a requirement of the virtual high school experience. And it is similar for KMVA, even though she requires a little bit more on-site monitoring. That is what they have found effective. As KPA, they only come in 2 hours a week, so it allows the student to be a split schedule. And at KMVA, they actually have to come in 2.5 hours a day to meet with that classroom teacher to continue to be on track. And so, I think we can always improve with our marketing of especially our non-traditional high schools and what some of those experiences are within there for the student that maybe is not experiencing success in one of our traditional high school settings. I think that's something we just need to continue to improve and do better.
Thank you. Other questions?
Yeah, so this is a rhetorical question, and then a couple of the other questions are a little unfair, so I don't expect any answers right now, but I want to get them out in case I forget. One is, the rhetorical one is, does it make sense for us to be involved in the Regional Justice Center because of the age of the clientele? And wouldn't a community college be more appropriate? I guess I'm rhetorical for my colleagues to think about in the future. Because I don't know the numbers and I don't know how the funding works for supposedly our teacher, then if it's a KSD employee down there, and the reimbursement and all that jazz. Maybe it's just a small program that just is kind of a wash. I don't know, but I'd like more information about it. I guess, does it make sense? And then two, I really don't want the question or the curiosity to be interpreted as anything else except simple curiosity. And I don't know that if we've ever done a financial review of the alternative learning sites of Kent Phoenix Academy or Kent Mountain View Academy, in that is our funding $20,000 per student, $25,000 students? Is it $5,000 a student? I don't know. And I know that we've had rumors, and I don't know where they started because I don't think they ever started on the board, about Kent Phoenix Academy and the use of that site. Again, I don't expect any answers, but I think it's important for this board to look at as we do the program review. What's the cost benefit? And clearly these are obviously outstanding, valuable programs. I just don't know that have we in the last 4 years? I don't recall. Reviewed that. So, so those are just kind of rhetorical questions that I'd really like us to perhaps look into further.
Our support of the Regional Justice Center, I will submit a formal report to Dr. Watts so we can provide a summary of that program and how the Kent School District supports both our of age youngsters in that program, which would be sort of our high school age students, as well as the students that are serving from 18 to 21. So we'll provide a detailed written report to Dr. Watts so you have that background information on how the Kent School District partnership works with the Regional Justice Center. And the ALE programming, as far as funding, is just a slightly enhanced rate above basic education, and that monthly process of reporting is watched very closely. I think that was on slide 2 and 3 of how that process works, of the student making progress in their classes and us reporting it to the state, ensuring high quality, rigorous programs for all our students before we get to claim that student as an FTE in our school district.
Okay. And then just one last question for the CTA, not rhetorical. So I was trying to figure out if 300 is a good number or average number in relative to the number of high school students that we have. And do we do any comparison to other school districts to see, is 300 low? Is it really high?
You know, actually, I like to brag that we are the only district in the state that has a program like this. There really is not another CTE online program. Yes, there are a few high schools around the state that have claimed to have an online class, but they do kind of different models, more of a hybrid model. So I think I can almost honestly say we're the only one that has this program.
Okay.
So there is no comparison would be the answer to that question.
Okay. So marketing, is that a CTE?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I neglected to mention that when you asked what classes, marketing. My teacher would be very upset with me. That's her pride class that she has online.
Yeah, my sophomore has struggled with that, which is good because it means he's learning.
Yes. And, you know, and I'm going to take advantage of what you opened this door for me. And we pride ourselves on the fact that our online classes are not just classes you can do in a weekend. We really want the integrity of the class to be the same online as if you were sitting in the classroom.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to hear that. Thank you.
I think the experience was really solid.
Great.
I think it was just to get a credit ahead of time, maybe for his circumstance.
Anything else? All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Moving on to 6.0, Board of Directors discussion and/or approval. For 6.01, the Inclusive Education Contract Change Order Number 1 for Professional Therapy Services, LLC, Carrie Ann Alsop. We need a motion to approve change order number 1 in the amount of $23,000 for SLP Professional Therapy Services, LLC, Carrie Alsop, 2015-16 contract.
I so move.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right. Do we have any discussion or questions? Okay. All those in favor of the motion to approve change order number 1 in the amount of $23,000 for SLP Professional Therapy Services and Carrie Ann Alsop, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? 6.02, Inclusive Education Contract Change Order Number 2 for Claudia Siprit. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. We need a motion to approve change order number 2 in the amount of $23,000 for SLP Claudia Siprit's 2015-16 contract.
I so move.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion or questions?
So is this with a particular individual or this individual? I mean, I thought of the question for the first person with a agency, because I see the agency coming up. So is this a contract with an individual?
Yes, and so she actually owns her own company, and so that's why her name is actually listed as the provider.
That's what I figured. And then for later, again, I'm really sorry for these late questions that should have been posed on Monday, but I would love for follow-up to know, what are we paying our staff in these positions, and or do we have any? And also, do we have vacancies?
I can answer the first part of that question, was that these were dollars originally in staffing, and we were not able to fill the position, and so we had to move those dollars to contract services to pay the contract.
Yeah. Okay.
And however, that gap question between what we're paying our school district employees for the same type of service versus a contract, I can get the summary.
Yeah, again, I'm sorry that ideally Monday would have been the right day, but I was not anywhere near thinking about today's meeting.
And I would add that even when we have agency contracts, we continue to post and seek to hire for those positions. We always keep the vacancy open.
Right. I mean, I figured so. Again, the huge disconnect between funding and reality in the world, and we did a pretty good job in the IT department taking care of that discrepancy, and I don't know if we've had a review of the healthcare fields like we did in IT, because IT was bleeding individuals left and right. And, you know, my guess is that 141,000, that's not currently what's on the table for our, is this one a speech pathologist or a, what's Claudia do?
Speech and language pathology.
Oh, speech and language, yeah. So I'm guessing our current staff of speech and language pathologists aren't making 141. But again, I just would like further information about how far apart are we
Absolutely.
in industry standards.
Okay.
And Director Hanscom,
I'm sorry,
I could speak to briefly when we've had this conversation regarding RNs and the sheer economics, supply and demand. The need is great, and so IT versus RNs or a speech language pathologist, there's no contest. So what we are seeing is a phenomenon. We did talk about this earlier this week. A phenomenon of individuals whose skill set is in high demand, and they are not necessarily seeking employment in a school district when they can contract and go into business themselves and make more money. Quite frankly, that's the simple part of it.
I think I could make more money starting my own nursing business than a board member. So
I can't argue with.
Any other questions or discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion to approve change order number 2 in the amount of $23,000 for SLP Claudia Sibrit's 15-16 contract, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed? All right, going on to 6.03, inclusive education agency staff contracts. We need a motion to approve change order number 1 in the amount of $55,000 for the 2015-16 school year.
I so move.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Do we have discussion or questions?
No, I made my point earlier, and it was also when we were discussing the contract with, community, who's our contractor for mental health services that we did?
Valley Cities.
Valley Cities. You know, they're again, at the school district doing feeding, providing psychology, providing all these health services when there exists the Affordable Care Act. And to the extent that we can get reimbursed or there needs to be greater communication with providers in the community, I don't know. But I mean, certainly we need it, we provide it. You can't learn if, you have these significant issues going, you can't hear. But again, I think it's worth a decent discussion among ourselves. And do we just keep doing all of this? And is that the right way to provide these services? So that's all I'll say on that.
Anything else? All right. All those in favor of the motion to approve change order number 1 in the amount of $55,000 for the 2015-16 school year, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? And we're moving on to the consent agenda. Does anyone want to pull any items for discussion?
Had several questions, but I think it's coming in our written report, so I'll skip it.
Okay. All right. Okay. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda items? Oops, oh, we didn't get one? Oh, all right. So I thought we did that. We need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I so move.
All right, we need a second for
I'll
that,
second
too.
that.
All right, thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All right, thank you. 8.01, the first reading of revised policy and procedure, got wrong number here, I know that, 2161?
2161, yes.
Yeah, this has an extra 0 on it. Special education and related services for eligible students. This is submitted for the first reading. Anybody have any comments or questions?
Oh, I did. Well, I was pleased to see the things that seemed very procedural, taken out, even though they were just referencing that they needed to be in the procedure, so I thought that was a good thing. But then one thing I had a question about was then the very last sentence that's right above all the items that were taken out. So the sentence that reads, "The district superintendent shall develop and maintain special education procedures necessary to implement this policy." Because it's now just by itself, I'm wondering if it could be interpreted that it was only referring to that paragraph about certificate of attendance and not referring to the whole policy, just because it's just one sentence down there at the bottom. So maybe not, but maybe.
You're saying the last statement referring to the procedures, correct?
Correct. I assume that sentence was was referring to the whole policy.
That is correct.
Not just the paragraph that's around certificate of attendance.
Absolutely.
But I was afraid it might be interpreted that it was only referring to certificate of attendance.
Okay. And that should be the expectation, that that last statement refers to the entire policy.
Thing. That was what I was thinking. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Implementation of the policy.
I did want to comment, getting back to Russ's previous comment about public insurance and private insurance. I think a lot of the verbiage is in the procedural part of it, and so I feel fairly comfortable that we are going to do those inquiries first before we provide those services. So it is covered in the procedures if we follow it.
This procedure and policy mirror WASDA's recommendations.
Yeah, so.
And I just had one comment, and I did send that in a paper. There's one point in it that says some of the prohibited actions. One is shaking a child under the age of 3, and to me, shaking any child is not okay. So maybe taking under the age of 3 out of there and just saying shaking a child would be more appropriate. And I know, I again sent that this needs to be really formatted more carefully. The numbers are all off in there, and I sent in a thing today, so.
Yeah, thank you very much for that feedback. The team will make the revisions in the
I know it's just the first draft, so. Good. All right, thanks. All right, we're moving on to communication from the audience. Just a reminder again, we're speaking from over here, the podium over there. You have 3 minutes to address the board. You are addressing the board, and we will more than likely not respond. That's because that's not our practice. I will call one person up, and then there'll be another person on deck. So I'll have Cheryl Clayton is up first. And then Han Kirkland is on deck.
Good evening, Board of Directors, Dr. Watts and Ms. Everett. Tonight I'm standing here before you to talk about the continuous support of parents and teachers behind the dual language program here in the Kent School District. On March 9th, 2016 was our first appearance here in this boardroom. We are a passionate group who have now had representation here with our blue shirts on for 8 consecutive board meetings. We look here out into the audience today, and I'd like to ask those in attendance of supporting the Kent School District dual language program to please stand and show your support. So I thank you all for being here in attendance, some with blue shirts on, some without, but we really appreciate you guys being here today. You can go ahead and see now. In the past 4 months, we have seen great progress and feel like we are being heard. Thank you, and we do have more work to do. We aren't ready to just, throw in the towel and say our efforts are done, because there's kiddos right underneath us in stake here. We want them to make sure that they get the full benefits of this program. We have great teachers in place to educate these kids, and we definitely need to support them and to make sure that they are feeling that they are needed and wanted here within the school district. I challenge us all to think outside the box. And my background is also marketing, and I've heard some parents talk about some ideas. We have Scenic Hill and Carriage Crest Elementary that were the very first behind this program, and we have two solely different demographics there. We have some stay-at-home moms, including myself, that speak English in my household, and I'm sure in Scenic Hill there's some stay-at-home moms that speak Spanish or have a Spanish household that could be volunteers and do a swap. I mean, think about that. I go over to Scenic Hill and do some reading groups with those children in the dual language program that could, that are struggling maybe on the English side, and I could do some reading efforts, and then vice versa. We put those efforts into place, and we need your guys' support to make those things happen, to get the connections there. So, I mean, just think about what a benefit that could be. And communication really overall is key to this program. I'd like the district to really have this program that they can boast about, that they can be written in the Kent Reporter about how great this program is, and how I think it was about 2 weeks ago when Nina and with Dr. Teddy had shown us some results. I mean, the first time ever. My daughter's been in this program for 3 years, and I now know, where she is on the spectrum of things. So we are supporting these students, and we all just need to work together. So thank you.
Thank you. So Han Kirkland and Veronica Smith, I'm going to get it right yet. Kesem? I get it right?
Yes.
You're on deck. Good. Okay.
Hi, my name is Han, and I'm here to just echo what she was speaking about with the dual language. I would really like to see the Kent School District get behind our program. My son's going into his 4th year, and the progress with his learning is amazing. And but my main concern tonight is the staff turnover. I know I've talked to Dr. Watts about it at the beginning of the year, and we're facing there's 4 vacancies at Scenic Hill for the dual language program. So I would like the board to maybe look into why the turnover is what it is. And with a program like the dual language, we have smaller classrooms, and they work closely with each other. So a lot of the students here know what teachers they're going to have next year. And the uncertainty of, who's going to be here and, just not knowing is just really hard for the kids, because it's just not consistent when you're seeing new faces every year. And it's one thing for the general education, but I think with the dual language, you really need that, because these kids, I mean, some of the classrooms are less than 20 kids, and they know, who they're going to get next year. And it's just really disheartening to see that a lot of the teachers won't be returning or leaving the dual language program. And I don't know if that's due to lack of support, or if it's the workload, if they can get more help. And another thing I wanted to know too is if there's exit interviews, if the Kent School District does a kind of one-on-one, why are you leaving, what is your main concern? Because while we do have some teachers that are there for a really long time, it just seems like, this is my 2nd year on the PTA, it's like, it takes me half a year to figure out all of our new staff. And it's, it's just hard on the students and parents to figure out, okay. And then by the time you get used to them and establish a relationship, they're gone again. And so, so I think that's everything I had on my mind here. So I don't know, I know you're not supposed to answer back, but it would be nice to know if there are exit interviews to get into the brains of why we have such a high staff turnover. Okay, that's it.
Veronica's up, and Brianna Tom is on deck.
Thank you, Superintendent Watts and members of the board. I'm Veronica Smith-Cossum, parent of a student in the dual language program at Carriage Crest. Tonight we've got 2 themes, trust and hope. Trust. At the last board meeting, I spent my 3 minutes reading statements from district admins into the record. Why? The problem is trust. 3 years ago, I heard district admins say that the new dual language program would continue through 12th grade and that a state grant was funding it. But 3 months ago, district admins said that the program was really only through 6th grade and there never was a grant. I read into the record statements here at the last meeting to ensure public accountability. It's my way of putting a stopgap for historically poor district communication. Tomorrow, when I send you a follow-up email, I'll be including documents that support why many parents believed the program was K-12 and grant-funded. I'll also include a list with parent contacts in case you want to speak with us directly about what we remember being told. But ultimately, we've got to move on. Which brings me to hope. Why do I still have hope for a program when I see a bug in your communication system? 3 reasons. First, my child is happy and learning. She comes home singing songs in Spanish, regularly uses Spanish vocab words and phrases in our English conversations, and has begun commenting on the similarities between English and Spanish words and grammar. Second, I have never doubted the dedication of our teachers. They go above and beyond contract requirements to ensure our kids are getting solid instruction. Even with a rocky start this past fall, recent program data requested by parents after these 3 years, we find this. Over 85% of our dual language students are at or above standard in English reading, and over 73% are at or above standard in Spanish reading. Fabulous numbers, a great program, it's working. Third, and key to my hopefulness, is because I believe that district admins are listening and responding. When parents at Carriage Crest started asking questions, district admins came to our school. We've had 4 parent forums over the past 4 months with admins from Kent School District. After parents clearly voiced frustration at not having Spanish grades appear on report cards all this time, district admins worked with teachers to make it happen. Last week, we got the first district report cards with Spanish grades on them. Parents have felt left in the dark about program progress and status and suggested that a newsletter would be helpful. Last week, district admins sent out the first ever dual language newsletter. Dr. Beam Conroy, Ms. Dino, and Ms. Williams have described planned program improvements to me in detail. I'm grateful for their time, and because I have hope, I believe them when they tell me that this coming fall, teachers and students will have the support and materials that they need from the get-go. Trust. It's hard to trust the system, but I believe you've got good people in place, and I can tell they're working hard to rebuild trust. Hope. Things aren't perfect, but I believe we're moving in the right direction. Please keep parents informed of your post-elementary plans for the dual language program. If there's a way for parents to be involved in the decision or the planning process, please let us know. You've got parents here who care, and kids too. Let's keep moving forward as a team to make this good program great. Thank you. Have a wonderful summer. I'll see you in the fall.
Thank you. Tom's up, and Daniela Smith, Kasam, and classmates are up on deck.
Hola, mi nombre es Brianna Tom. Acabo de pasar a 4º grado de primera en la escuela Carriage Crest. He sido parte del programa dual por 3 años desde que este comenzó. Las maestras hacen las clases tan divertidas que se te olvida que estás aprendiendo español. Por ejemplo, hacíamos sopa de letras y al mismo tiempo aprendíamos a cómo deletrear palabras y no nos dábamos cuenta en ese momento que estábamos aprendiendo algo. Todas las maestras que entiendo son muy lindas. A mí me gusta mucho aprender español y poder hablarlo con otras personas. Ya han sido 3 años de español y poder platicar con alguien. Me gustaría mucho que este programa siguiera a nivel secundaria y preparatoria. Muchas gracias. Hello, my name is Brianna Tom. I'm going into 4th grade at Carriage Crest Elementary. I've been in the dual language program for 3 years since the program started. The teachers make it so fun you forget you're even learning Spanish. For example, we made sopa de letras word searches. We were actually learning how to spell words backwards, across, and many other ways. But we didn't even know we were learning. All the teachers I've had are really nice. I really like learning Spanish and speaking Spanish with people. It's been 3 years of Spanish and I can talk to someone in Spanish. I would love for the dual language program to continue to middle school and high school. Thank you.
And Daniela and classmates, it says.
My name is Daniela Smith-Cossum, and this is Brianna Tom, Jack Hilburn, Riley Clayton. We're in the dual language program, and we love it. Here's a nursery rhyme Señora Armenta taught us. It's called Sol Solecito. It's kind of random, and it's about the sun, the moon, some animals, and Pinocchio who plays a drum with a spoon and a fork. Here it is. Sol, solecito, caliéntame un poquito por hoy, por mañana, por toda la semana. Luna, lunera, cascabelera, 5 pollitos y una ternera. Caracol, caracol, a la 1 sale el sol. Sale que nuestro cama de sabor con una cuchara y un tenedor. I thought it continues. Yeah, but make it short.
Thank you. Oh, gracias. Pardonnez-moi. All right. That was the last. So moving on to superintendent's report. Dr. Watts?
Thank you, President Brewer, members of the board, Ms. Everett, and staff and families and friends. It's an honor to be here humbly serving, and I do want to state that while today is June 22nd, 7 days ago marked my 1-year anniversary, and what a difference a year can make, and how time flies. I will also say that I am incredibly wired for this work of servant leadership, support, teamwork, finding ways to address the myriad needs of our community, students, families, and support staff. I'm also never satisfied with where we are. In a positive way, we can always be better in the spirit of continuous improvement. And so I am incredibly hopeful, while I don't have my sign, I may have to borrow it, I am incredibly hopeful for our future. And what I will say is based on a quote I used earlier in the year. Dr. Shane Lopez of the Gallup organization, who said that hope is the belief that your future will be better than your present, along with the belief that you have the power to make it so. And I believe not only do we have the power, we have the will, the skill, the talent, and the emotional fortitude in these times of challenge and controversy, that we will rise above, and our students, most importantly, will be successful. To that end, I do want to share briefly one of those opportunities that will allow us to be successful. June 14th, 4 schools were represented in this room for a professional development opportunity that supported the restorative practices and the restorative principles. The actual principles, P-A-L-E-S, or L-S, I can spell. And a team of 2 from each of the schools came to learn for 4 hours the power of respect, trust, and integrity, and taking a very close look at themselves as adults, realizing that our students, as well as the adults who serve them, do need to have an opportunity to be responded to in very different ways. The idea of restorative practices begins and ends with, I have to first respond in kind and in love. Once I do that, others around me understand the importance of love, self-respect. So I'm very pleased with what I heard. It was a powerful 4 hours. I look forward to continuing that growth. Even will entertain opportunities for us to go through a healing, peacemaking circle. And I found it to be incredibly eye-opening. And I look forward to that continued work for 16, 17, and beyond. that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Russ?
I don't have a whole lot except really loved and enjoyed the graduations. And if I could bottle the passion and enthusiasm that we have of the parents here for this particular program, I would put it in all the drinking water. Because when you see the value, the board is 5, superintendent, but the parents are, you know, the ants in the colony that can really move this organization. So I just would love to see how we could build upon that kind of involvement. And we do our things, but public testimony has always been my favorite thing because it holds us all much more accountable. And even if sometimes the testimony is goofy, it still relays to us our ultimate responsibility to the community and what we're all here for. So other than that, frankly, I'm still right in vacation mode, so it's very hard for me to think right now. But I had a wonderful 3 days on the Oregon coast golfing. That's it.
Okay. I'll agree, public testimony is great. It's always great to hear from our families, but it's also great, it's also great to hear from our kids. And I look forward to the coming year, hearing more from our students. I think it's really important when we're making decisions that we hear from our students. I too want to express my appreciation to everyone who coordinated the graduations. Every year, we're awestruck by how smoothly it goes, and I want to thank Mr. Loftus and Community Connections, our media crew, our safety officers. Unfortunately, they left, but the tremendous amount of work that they do to make sure that everything goes smoothly. And I also want to say that having the feeder schools be represented, and that's something that Dr. Watts brought in, the idea of having our feeder schools attend the graduation, and what a great thought for them to be able to see their kids be successful and graduate. And in line with that, I think a new tradition that Dr. Watts started is having our seniors walk through our elementary schools, encouraging them to graduate. I mean, these are the kind of things that our kids need to see what their future looks like. And so just a tremendous effort by staff members here and with graduation ending. And also want to congratulate all the folks who have retired today. Earlier, there was a reception. Congratulate and thank everyone. And then finally, I just want to add how grateful we are to have found our leader in Dr. Watts, and what a pleasure and privilege it's been to work with him in moving us all forward to the next year.
Thank you. May I take a personal point of just privilege to say the senior walk was Scenic Hills, Principal Harjeet, so I can't take credit for that. However, I do fully support the idea. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you can take credit because blame will come your way too. So even for things you're not responsible for.
And I accept that. Absolutely.
But thank you for recognizing the actual facts.
Wilson.
Good point. Tuesday, I attended the gathering of the South King County directors, where we gather informally around primarily equity issues. And it was very informative, and they talked about the question that you raised at our last meeting, Maya, around blended funding and the flexibility under the Every Student Succeeds Act in the future of being able to blend, and I have to look at my notes here, blending state, local, and federal funds. And Mary Furtakis, who is a school board director from Tukwila and a former WASDA president, talked about how there will be a waiver process, and the Department of Education is going to be issuing guidance next school year, and it will be a pilot, and there'll be up to 50 pilot districts that will be able to participate. So I look forward and encourage all of you to increase your knowledge around sort of that flexibility that could be an opportunity for us to use our funding more effectively where we need to use it. Also, as part of that conversation, we did talk about the interest in weighted student funding that I know Dr. Watts has been talking to our legislators about, and I've brought up before, and we need to continue. And so if you happen to be running into state legislators, since it's campaign season, they're out and about in the community, to bring up to them the importance of how that's a much more effective way of providing funding to us so that our neediest students were getting more money for them. And we got to see, Mary Fadakis brought some charts that she and Dave Larson from the Tukwila School Board had pulled together with state data, and really showing, there was a great graph that was very graphically showing for ELL students, the districts, generally speaking, that had more ELL students were actually getting less money per student than the districts that had fewer, and the graph kind of went, the wrong way. So I think it's something that we need to continue to be advocating more for with our legislators now that there's interest in looking at that differently. So. And then lastly, I just want to share an opportunity I had at work that I think relates to what we're doing here, and that has to do with really working together across South King County with other districts and with our community partners to really try to more effectively address the opportunity gap and to do our equity work. And so through my work, I had the opportunity to convene, there's a national equity leaders in the world of early childhood fellowship program for them that's convened by this organization called BUILD. And so through my work, I had the opportunity to bring people from Oregon who are participating in that National Equity Leaders Network, along with people from Washington State who are participating. And then we also had a representation from Puget Sound ESD and from the city of Seattle, their early childhood team, that were coming and sharing cross systems, both internal work that they were doing around equity to really inform and educate staff around sort of our own biases and our impressions of others and how that impacts decisions we make and our interactions. And that it was just very powerful all coming together around that. So I'm really glad that we're continuing to do that here collectively, and that there's lots of opportunities for us as we go forward to do that work together with others. So wanted to share that with you all.
So at a couple of things. One is, as the school year winds down, I want to continue to put a plug out for mentors. I had an opportunity to be a mentor this year at Neely O'Brien, and just I often think of how great it would actually be if every single one of our students in every school could have that extra mentor and support. And so it's the time, the school year is wound down, I guess. But yeah, it's over. But there are opportunities to get involved now so that you're ready to help out at the beginning of the school year. So always put a plug out for that. Also, the Kent Schools Foundation doesn't really wind down too much during the summer. We're still working hard to grow and develop so that we can help support the Kent School District in pursuing success for all students. So if you are interested in the Kent Schools Foundation and finding out more about what we're about, either Maya or myself, I'm sure, would be more than happy to talk to you about that and that opportunity. As well as I always enjoy going to graduations and seeing the different emotions from our students as they cross the stage, and just to be able to celebrate with them their success during the year. And I do want to give a big thank you out to all of our staff. There's a lot of work that goes into a school year, and I don't think we often recognize all the things that are behind the scenes that help make our students successful every single day. And we really do appreciate all that work. Our students are better because of you. And so thank you very much.
Well said. I would also like to talk about your first anniversary here, and I really appreciate the fact that you have pulled us together in a board superintendent's governance team. It's the first time we've really done that, and we're doing some studying, some academic studying. We're going to be doing some work this summer. We all volunteered to come in when we didn't have to, but we're going to be getting together and just moving ourselves forward so that we're really ready to move KSD forward. Absolutely. So thank you so much for that. Graduations, just I always love them. They're just so great to see the kids and know that they're going in different directions, and yet they've all completed something very important. And I got to hug my mentee as she crossed the stage at KPA, and I really appreciated that. And I gave her present that I won at the Founders Day. And she didn't open it that night, but she texted me the next day. She said, "Wow, thank you." So that was great. And again, mentoring, I'm getting a lot out of it, and I can tell that my two mentees are getting things out of it too, so getting some really positive. So looking forward to starting again in the fall, and with my now fourth grader, and probably moving on to Highline College with my graduate. So that's great. That's it for me. Thanks. And with that, we are adjourned.